Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast, here every Tuesday and Friday. I am Luke Owen, DAD, and this week I'm joined by Dan Layton, the truth, the professor.
It's actually Dan Layton, MA now.
Sorry, my apologies.
Yeah.
I'm joined by Dan Layton, MA.
Master of Arts.
The truth. In which case then, I am Luke Owen, BSc brackets ons. That's right, I got a Bachelor of Science.
So I still have, I don't know if it's like, because M is like bigger than B, that just replaces the B. Or if I can be Dan Layton BAMA. Dan Layton Bama is a lot more fun.
BMA.
Bama.
Welcome to the show. Please do subscribe wherever you're finding us from, whether that be on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or on Spotify, or breaking news.
Okay.
If you're going on a golf holiday like Ollie Davis has.
Yeah. Well, I've heard this. I actually received a text from Ollie. Mm-hmm. He was on a golf holiday. He was on the 9th hole, and he was really struggling. He'd landed in the bunker, and he was just really going at it with a wedge, and it wasn't working. But the thing was, because he'd been going at the ball so hard, he'd actually like cleared out a bunch of the sand and then just buried underneath it. Would you believe it?
Would you believe it?
A QR code,
yeah,
which he clicked, and he brought him to this podcast.
So if you're going on a lads golfing holiday, which is what Ollie has done, is why he's not here today.
Real?
He's gone on a golfing lads holiday.
No, I mean the lads golfing. I don't imagine lads going. Well, I do actually. Yeah. They've got ginger wigs on, like they're all wearing plaid shorts.
I don't think it's like that. I think they're all dressed the same. They're all wearing the same shirt that they bought from there.
Little polo shirt.
Yeah, little polo shirt, yeah.
Uncomfortably tight trousers.
Yeah.
Very clean shoes.
Bought them all from Next.
Yeah, very that. Okay,
yeah.
Good.
And they've gone on their golf holiday. Though I can exclusively reveal that Ollie can't really play golf at the moment because he has got, legitimately, golfer's elbow.
Is that a thing?
Yeah,
I've heard of tennis elbow.
Yeah, he's got golfer's elbow, and it means that he can't do the full swing and stuff.
Cool.
It is cool, isn't it?
Well, at my graduation, I didn't want to wear a suit because suits are boring. So I was like, what am I going to wear? Whatever. And I bought a pair of like high-waisted, like wide leg trousers from Weekday, like they're kind of cool clothes. And then on top, I bought a top from M&S because I'm in my 30s.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah. Congratulations to you. And also, congratulations. Not only is Dan now finished, he's officially graduated now and everything.
With distinction.
With distinction.
Yeah.
So congratulations to you.
Thanks very much, mate.
Very proud for everything that you have
Appreciate
done.
it. Appreciate you all.
And thank you for joining as well. Do leave your comments down below. Subscribe and all that good jazz. We are kicking things off today. We will be reviewing AEW Dynamite later with the 2 Blood and Guts matches.
Blood and Guts. One was called Blood, the other one was called Guts.
Yeah, 2.5 hours that episode, 3 matches. We'll get on to that in a little bit. But we're going to kick things off talking about Jericho in a way, but sort of the larger point that Jericho sort of claims on his podcast. So he did, I cannot believe this, he did an episode of Talk is Jericho. Apparently it's still going.
Yeah, I remember the wrestling podcast boom of 2015-16 because it also coincided with Mobike Summer. Do you remember this? I don't know if you do.
Mobike Summer?
Mobike Summer. It was like 2018 maybe. But like basically Mobike was they're now line bikes is the big thing. Bikes you can hire on an app that are around about. And they're not tethered to anything.
The Boris bikes?
Well, no. Because Boris bikes have stations and they're there and they're meant to be there and that's a plan.
They were the Ken Living cycles first.
Well, exactly.
And then Boris took them on.
And now they're the...
Well, they were called the Boris bikes because he finished the plan. So
yeah, I know,
the Ken Living cycle, Kevin Livingston started it.
Yeah.
Boris copied and pasted and finished it. And then, so they're still the Boris bikes.
But I feel bad for Sadiq not having his own one. Do you know what I mean?
What he's got is 3 consecutive victories.
Hello, that part. Now, yeah, so these bikes, they're like line bikes. People leave them anywhere.
Leave them everywhere.
And they're like all over the sidewalks.
And
it's like
London
they are the worst things in the world. But for that first summer when they came out, they were the best things because I'd be cycling home from the pub and I'd be like, I'll cycle home from Central. And I would literally be like, oh my God, there's Buckingham Palace. There's Big Ben. I'd be looking at all of these like icons. And in my ears is Bruce Pritchard going, well, the thing is, I can't do a Bruce Pritchard impression. Or Talk is Jericho.
Yeah.
So, colour me shocked it's still going.
I was so surprised with it. I was like, yeah, Jericho said this on Talk is Jericho.
Yeah.
And I looked. It's like 3 days a week he's posting episodes.
Well, because he went through that period. It used to be really interesting and he'd have the great conversations. I remember the John Moxley one when he left and that was a really fascinating thing to listen to. Like, I actually found them really engaging. Also, he was the first person that I listened to try and organically put in the ad reads.
Oh, yes, he was, yeah. That's a really interesting point you've made. But first, I need to talk about the audio quality will be different.
Decidedly different. And I was like, okay, Chris. But it was a really engaging podcast. And then he sort of went a little bit off the deep end, didn't he? When he started to
bring
pull the
conspiracy
curtain
theorists
back.
on.
Conspiracy theorists. Why didn't he do a whole conspiracy theory episode with Jeff Hardy and Dean Ambrose?
I don't remember that.
I think there was one of them they were both on. I think they were both talking about conspiracy theories. They're like, and then he brought on actual theorists. And then didn't he bring on Donald Trump Jr.?
Yeah. Like he's had like politicians on and things like that. But like the one that I remember the most is when he brought on someone who genuinely believed the Mandela effect was real.
Right.
And Jericho did the full Joe Rogan thing, which is just like, I'm just going to agree with everything that you say, even though what you're saying is clearly not right.
And when you get there, it's like, well, I'm not enjoying the podcast, so I stopped listening to it. But obviously, it's still working for a large portion of people. And hey, this is exactly what he needed because it's broken through.
Exactly, because he said something on the podcast. So he did an episode with the Hardys and the Dudleys. So, you know, I turned 40 this year, which I've mentioned on pretty much every show I have this year. It was lovely for me because it's 5 guys from like my era of wrestling for when I was a kid talking about and sort of like sharing stories. Also, if I may, it's got some glorious old carny wrestler nonsense on it, like Matt, Jeff, Bubba Ray being like, oh yeah, we stole the show. We actually went back. I'm not sure who followed us. I don't think they could. And like Matt Hardy been like, it was a masterpiece of storytelling.
Were they being serious? Because I've read that quote of him being like, I don't know if you could say they followed us or whatever. I thought he was just being funny.
No, I think they were just being serious, being old wrestler carny style. And it's, you know what? Wonderful, because we don't have enough of this anymore. I miss the days of shoot interviews when you'd give Kevin Nash 3 bottles of wine and he'd be like, let me tell you about Billy Kidman, and it would just like and it would just start running and just start telling you stories about people
filmed on an entry-level video camera.
Oh yeah, not good microphone quality because you're just using the onboard mic of the camera you're using. Beautiful stuff. Filmed in a hotel room. You can hear the aircon in the background. I miss those. That time.
RF Shoot, wasn't it?
Exactly. Can't really talk about him anymore though.
Oh, I don't actually know anything. I just remember the website.
Not a good dude, Rob Feinstein. But anyway, so I loved it from that aspect of it. But the thing that Jericho said at the start, it's about 7 minutes in, is they're talking about the crowd that were there. So there was a huge audience for TNA's Bound for Glory, where the Hardys and Dudleys final match took place. TNA said it was 7,794. WrestleNomics have since put out a report that said TNA sold around 5,500 tickets for the show, and the turnstile count was just over 6,000.
Okay.
So they don't know where the 7,000 tickets... TNA have said, look, we tallied it. It was 7,000. That's a verified number from the building. Whatever it is a record for the building as best as can be told. And I have got this line. But what's clear enough is that Bound for Glory was among the most lucrative events in TNA's history. The 5,554 tickets sold generated $390,000 gate with an average ticket price of $70. Tasonga Center charged TNA a $45,000 rental fee, while concession revenue likely went to the venue. Fans spent another $122,000 on food and beverage.
Cripes.
So, if that money goes to the venue, either way, the venue are pretty pleased.
And I guess that doesn't even take into account like merch sales and things like that.
That's it, which would go to TNA.
Yeah.
TNA has said like, oh yeah, there was some suites and stuff that don't get counted in the turnstiles, which WrestleNomics like, well, that's 200. I still don't know where the other 1,000 people are. But whatever it is, TNA are happy. The venue is happy. It is a success.
Can I say, like, I've got a small list of I can't with the discourse. That's the title of the list, and one of them is turnstile count.
Count, I know.
It was the whole contacting Brent Council thing that really solidified that for me. I was like, leave him alone.
I've got the exact same thing because when WrestleNomics posted this report with the turnstile count, I was like, Brandon, mate, come on.
You know what I mean? And I like at that point, I lived in Brent, and I was like, lads, my council tax money is paying for this frivolous email. I don't like it.
And I guarantee you, it wasn't one person that sent that email.
Do you know what I mean?
It was a bunch of people that sent that email.
We've got far bigger issues in Brent.
But the point really of this is that it looked big. Because that's with wrestling, even if you sell 2,000 seats in a 10,000 seat building, if you get them in the right spaces and you film it right, you can make it look like there are 10,000 people there.
I mean, the thing about... You don't even need to do it with a big arena. Like television production and camera and trickery. I mean, like what was it? WCW and the Universal Studios, you create the vibe. Like it's a tiny little venue, but as long as it looks slick, it's great.
Yeah, TNA in the Impact Zone. So
exactly.
Like I was stunned when I learned there was only 1,000 people at TNA Impact shows. Because I would have told you, oh yeah, there was like 3,000 people in all those buildings. Because it felt massive. It felt like there was loads of people there. And so Jericho says, this is the quote, "That crowd looked huge. It was like a WWE level crowd. I was watching this and compared it to watching Dynamite when they were at the ECW arena, and it looked like a Tony Condello taping. Sorry, it did. TNA looked like the second biggest company in the world."
Now, first question, who is Tony Condello?
I think everyone had that same thing. Everyone went to the same Google result. Everyone went to the same Wikipedia article. He was a Canadian wrestling promoter during the 1980s. Famously, I'm going by the Wikipedia article.
Famously is playing it fast and loose.
He did things called death tours.
Great.
And the line that's from the Wikipedia page was that wrestlers had to take one bag of food that would last them the entire tour. No hotels were booked. They would sleep on the sides of roads, in cars, or at the venues they were performing in. There was no accommodation booked for them. Those were the death tours.
Right.
And that's what Jericho is comparing. Okay. And it's also...
I see what he's being hyperbolic.
He is being hyperbolic, but he's also being fairly hyperbolic when he said it's a WWE level crowd.
Completely.
Yeah.
Well, so the interesting thing is...
I think if WWE sold 7,000 tickets for WrestleMania, they would be pretty not happy about that.
Didn't they sell 4,000 for Salt Lake City SmackDown the other day? And
it's not been a great run of form for WWE.
But just to say, when we're talking about WWE level size, I mean, it's the same thing if you can film anything.
Yes, absolutely. My point is more, this is TNA's biggest show of the year.
Yeah.
This is their WrestleMania.
That's true. Yeah.
So Chris Jericho is comparing TNA's WrestleMania to an episode of Dynamite that was taped at the ECW arena.
And the ECW arena, it feels like a slightly unfair comparison because it's just a black box studio at this point. There's nothing. I mean, and also, isn't the point of the ECW arena to be
not feel like there's a lot of people there?
Exactly, and it to be that kind of intimate. So it's an inelegant comparison. I would go so far as to say it's a bad faith comparison, but it's a bad comparison.
Yeah, I don't think he's doing it in bad faith.
No.
But it is wild that Jericho is publicly burying the company that he currently works for while putting over the WWE endorsed competition.
Because you can say that sentence without bringing AEW into it, really, can't
100%.
You? Yeah.
You didn't need to say it made TNA look like the second biggest company on the planet.
They look like a major player.
When you yourself work for the second biggest wrestling promotion on the planet. So the funny stuff that's come out of this is all of the comments and everyone like, oh, so he's gone. Like he is out the door of AEW. See you at the Rumble.
Fun when you go to his AEW roster page and he's just there going like that, and it's like putting that quote underneath that. It's quite funny. Like him,
see ya.
He's gone.
Bye. See you in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, woof.
I actually think that if he is... So the story about Saudi Arabia Rumble is that there might not be a lot of surprises in that Rumble because they won't be able to hide them.
Yeah.
Because
they're going to be in Saudi Arabia.
You're going to be in Saudi Arabia. So they're likely going to do a lot of Rumble surprises before the Rumble. So he might actually be on a Raw or SmackDown. But, see you at Rumble season.
Wasn't the last time he was on WWE programming in the Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi? Am I wrong about that?
I think you are right.
Because that would be fun. He leaves the arena. He's been there the whole time, they'll say. He's been in the back.
And it was nearly a decade ago.
Yeah, literally.
Well. It's been a long time.
You didn't need to say that part.
Because, he left the company because he saw bigger opportunities for himself working in New Japan. And that actually, I'd say, revitalized his career. And it led to him being part of AEW in 2019. He had a bit of a falling out with Triple H, no less, because he wanted to have NXT talent on the Talk is Jericho, on the Jericho cruise.
Yeah.
And WWE said no, which is why that's what pushed him into the arms of New Japan and the Elite, and that's what sort of formed their friendship and stuff.
But also, it's like no small part to say that, I mean, there are so many different moving parts that make that era of wrestling so fascinating from a historical perspective, because it's when someone the stature of Chris Jericho goes off and does something in New Japan, even though like AJ Styles had been there and come to WWE, Finn Balor had been there and come to WWE, like it's not like it wasn't in the conversation, but suddenly you're like, oh, and because NXT had been bubbling up, we were like starving for an alternative, and we had the alternative in-house, but then there was like, oh, there are other things as well. That all leads to the conversation about, and as a part of this, to try and tie it into the sort of central topic here, Impact was present. Would we say Impact was the second company then?
No, I think at that point, I'd probably say it was Ring of Honor.
Right.
I'd say Ring of Honor was probably, because like TNA, from like 2013 up until, I would argue, 2024, were a dead company.
Pretty much.
That was just on life support the entire time.
It was a glorified indie.
They were just bouncing around from various station to station, which no one had particularly much access to. They had talent. That talent would come. That talent would go. They would do tapings. They'd do pay-per-views. No one would buy them. They were doing a period of time where they were airing on Twitch, and then the pandemic didn't help. The partnership with AEW, I think, did them some benefits. We can get into some numbers. Like, one of their biggest buy rates they've ever had was a show where Kenny Omega was in the main event when he wins the Impact title from Rich Swann.
Yeah.
So that kind of held. But I think categorically, undeniably, this association with WWE has really raised the value and stock of TNA.
For sure.
But to the point you were making, I don't think it can be stated enough what an impact, pardon the pun, Jericho had on the indie scene. And Jericho not doing that Wrestle Kingdom show, we would still have AEW, but I don't think we have the same vibe that it did, because like what happens at Wrestle Kingdom sort of then leads into a bit of a rise of Ring of Honor and New Japan, and that's what leads to them doing All In, and then All In is what leads Tony Khan, who was already planning on launching a wrestling promotion, to be like, let's all come together.
That's it. That's why you can't point at any one personal thing and say this is what it was. But you've got all of your checkpoints, and you've got all of this is an important part on your web and the red string and the rest of it, and that was massive. So like for him to now be sitting here throwing shade
in a way,
is really interesting, because it feels like another one of those, like, red string moments, I suppose.
I think it is, because like I think this is Jericho signaling to all of us, I'm done. I'm not going back to AEW. I am going back to WWE. And these are 5 lads here who are on Team WWE.
Yeah.
Talking about how great TNA is. And he made the point. His claim is TNA looked like the second biggest company in the world. Now, important to say there, he didn't say they are the second biggest company in the world. What he is saying is they looked like the second biggest company in the world when you compare how Bound for Glory looked when compared to an episode of Dynamite from the ECW region.
Yeah.
It's apples and oranges.
It's
not fair comparison stuff. So I thought, but he's not alone in thinking that. We get a lot of comments on our videos and stuff that say TNA is dead, TNA is doomed, TNA is dying. AEW is doomed, AEW is dead, AEW is on the outs. TNA has overtaken it. TNA is now the second biggest promotion in North America. So I thought, just but one of the fun things doing here is just like, well, let's just lay it out then and sort of determine what is the metrics of they are the second biggest promotion in the world. So if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, they did do, they sold 5,000 tickets for Bound for Glory. That is up from the 3,000 attendance that was there for Bound for Glory 2024. And Slammiversary had 7,623. 2 huge results for TNA there. Oddly, and I think this is odd, the buy rates for either of those shows has not been released, which I find very perplexing. I don't know why they have not been released. Either they're not high, or they're not as high as they would like them to be.
Right.
Because they have got the pay-per-view buy rates for their 2024 shows. Because Slammiversary 2024 got 21,000 buys. That was their biggest since like the Spike era. It's third behind Rebellion 2021, which is the Omega Swan match, and Hard to Kill, which had 66,000 buys. That was the one where they brought back the TNA name.
Which we reviewed.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And like that is, you look at those numbers there, those are the sort of numbers they were doing back when TNA was hot, the Spike era of TNA, when they did Lockdown, I should know this, 09. I think it's 09. I reviewed it on Patreon. That was like their biggest buy rate. That was like 60,000 buys. So like these sort of numbers here, it's like, wow, TNA have not had this level of success since then. So yeah, I don't know why the 2025 numbers have not been released. Either way, those are great successes compared to where they were. And that sort of death spiral that they were in. A weird death spiral that never had an end, because the reason why it's called Hard to Kill is because they could not die.
Yeah.
TNA just would.
Yeah.
The joke always was among wrestling fans, even after the apocalypse, TNA will still be running shows.
Cockroaches and TNA.
It'll be cockroaches and TNA. The only things that survive nuclear apocalypse. And yeah, I think that the partnership with WWE has been huge for them.
It's interesting because I feel like a lot of... there are some people who would disagree with you and say that it's actually been detrimental to the value of the brand, and it's just an exercise in WWE hoovering up talent and things like that. And yet, I'm interested in watching shows that I otherwise wouldn't have watched, to be honest, because I'm like, oh, that's an interesting story beat, or these people that, you know, I'm engaged with. I know names that I wouldn't have known. I think it's made TNA an attractive prospect for talent like, I'm going to say, a Leon Slater.
A great example to bring up.
You know, who is talented enough to have his pick of the bunch, and sees AEW sees TNA. This is too many letters. Sees TNA and goes, that's an interesting one, because it's a way of sort of, you know, WWE adjacent. Has been on WWE programming a whole bunch while still honing his craft and not being necessarily tied to WWE and things like that. It's an attractive offer, and you know, there are so many reasons that a wide, varied market is important in any industry. Options are important in any industry. So it's as far as I can see, it's only a good thing if that partnership keeps going. It would be interesting to see what happens.
TNA.
Yeah,
it monetarily, financially, I think it benefits TNA.
It would be interesting to see what happens if it stopped. Whether or not people would still go, oh, I'm intrigued by what they've built there, what they're going. I don't see an incentive for TNA to stop it at any point. I don't really see an incentive for WWE to stop it at
Absolutely
any point.
Not.
I see it as a massive benefit for them.
Because you know, what we say about TNA now is it is developmental for the developmental.
Yeah.
Like TNA is now a feeder system for NXT.
Yeah.
In the same way that AAA will likely be a bit of a feeder system for TNA. It is, for NXT. You're right, there are just
too many letters.
Too many three-letter acronyms or initialisms. This is Triple H's global localization, but under a different name, where he wanted to just do loads of NXT brands across the world. Instead, they're just partnering with Noah in Japan.
Yeah.
AAA, they are now owned down in Mexico. TNA is a North American partner for them. They're partnered with, you know, they've got relationships with GCW and all that.
Yeah.
Like, they are more or less just feeder system. But Leon Slater is a really good example for this. So Leon, I think, and I might have my timelines wrong on this, I think he'd signed with TNA before the WWE partnership had taken place. I might be wrong on that one. The only reason I think I might be wrung on that one is because he's so young.
Do you know what I mean?
Because he's only 19.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a part of me, it's like, I don't think that can be right. But I can't quite remember. But I seem to remember Leon doing some stuff with TNA before, because he's obviously the UK connection, because he's from Bradford. TNA connection before the WWE partnership sort of officially began.
Yeah.
But either way, Leon Slater is now a name that, and the British indie scene, everyone knows. Everyone knows Leon Slater. Like, he is a name that is up there with your Michael Okus, your Nina Samuels, like of the top British indie names. He's done amazing work with Rev Pro and with NGW. He is all over the place. He is, like, I've spoken to promoters who've said, like, saw him at a young age being like, he is the future of this industry. Like, these things that he can do, he is the next Will Ospreay. Yeah. Now, he is known much wider, and that is because of WWE. That is because of WWE's partnership with TNA and him. He is 100% WWE bound.
Yeah.
The second his TNA contract's up, WWE are going to sign him. He is on NXT all the time now.
Yeah, he is.
It's Joe Hendry.
Yeah.
I don't look at Joe Hendry now and think that's TNA superstar Joe Hendry. I'm like, that's WWE's Joe Hendry.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Jordan Grace.
Grace. I was about to say, Jordan Grace was the exact same thing. The second that Jordan Grace came into the Royal Rumble, she ceased being TNA star Jordan Grace and was like, you're just WWE in waiting star Jordan Grace. Joe Hendry's the exact same thing. I think Leon Slater is the next on that list. And if you are upset that TNA is being used as a feeder system, then I think you're welcome to be upset about that, particularly if you are a TNA diehard and you want it to be seen as a viable alternative. But at this point, I don't think it can be considered.
It's not an alternative.
It's not an alternative anymore. It's part of the WWE ecosystem. It's basically evolve.
And to like sort of put asterisk on what I said earlier on about how it's good to have options as an industry. There's a world where that is a little bit monopoly. You know, I can see that. I can see that argument. And yet there's the other way where, like, a Nick Nemeth, who hasn't really appeared in any NXT stuff, hasn't been a part of that, but is still very much like present in TNA kind of thing. Mustafa Ali had that. The Iconics, who I will not call the Inspiration because they're the Iconics, and I love the Iconics, and I think the Iconics got a bad rep.
Sure did.
I mean, but they are also the inspiration, so respect it. Respect the inspiration, whatever. Oh my god, when that theme hit, when they came out for that showdown, I lost my mind.
I know. I took issue with it.
I bet you did.
I was like, this is such a burial of TNA.
And that's fair.
That what you do does not matter because they're coming out to their NXT.
And that's fair, but that theme slapped so hard that I needed to hear it.
Team TNA was basically, it was like watching the Alliance during the invasion. It was like, you're basically just Team WWF again.
And I agree with that, but what you're failing to really sell, I think, is how the Iconics theme slaps.
It's very good theme.
Thank you. But yeah, like it's there's many ways. There's many ways, it works for them. I think it is inbound if you want it to be just its fire alternative. Did you like it when it was sort of nothing? And even arguably, it was a great place for people like a Drew Galloway to go and prove himself. A Bobby Lashley, a Cody Rhodes. It was a stop on their redemption tour.
It was a place for them to earn money
before going to something bigger.
Cody Rhodes, I think, is a harsher one because I think he was there for about 2 weeks.
No, I know, but I'm saying that's what I'm saying is a stop on his tour.
Exactly, yeah. It is, I want to do this. I can go there. I can either hone my craft or, probably more importantly, make some money.
Make some money and build my brand and show myself as big time. Like, I'm not saying that any of these people looked at Impact as like their destination.
That's a destination to go to.
That was a place where they could work for a
America.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, I do agree with you. The argument, though, that they, by dint of being part of the WWE machine, are now the second biggest brand in America, or the second biggest company in North America, I think is as preposterous as Eric Bischoff saying that the NWO was the second biggest wrestling promotion in 1998.
Yeah.
I mean, A, you're not a wrestling promotion, NWO. B, you did an NWO pay-per-view and it absolutely tanked.
It bombed, yeah.
So categorically, you could not be the second biggest North American wrestling promotion.
Yeah.
And I think the same can be said for TNA. Because even though AEW has not... I think 2025 has been a great year for them. Creatively, I think they have been firing on all cylinders. I think Dynamite's been a much better show. The pay-per-views have been so much better. I think they haven't missed with a pay-per-view this year. I think 2025 has been the year that they needed to recover from. I mean, Brawl Out and Brawl In, sort of the combination of the two, led to a real downtime, a down period for AEW. Not just business-wise, I just think creatively. I just think like the company didn't feel... It's why they went on this, Edge doing the rah-rah speech on TV, which I thought was such a mistake. Airing the Punk footage, which I thought was an even bigger mistake. Such of the cringiest things they can do. But it's also why they kept talking about restoring the feeling. The feeling is back. They've dropped all of that now and are just focusing on the product. It's a much better show off the back of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of that as well came from the idea that AEW was the place where you'd have the dream job and you wanted to work.
The freedom.
And then that curtain got pulled back a little bit and it wasn't that. And actually you saw the limits of what freedom looks like and that you were sat there going, who's exactly steering the ship and what's going on and things like that. And that pulled away from the mystique a little bit of that. And now what then happens, speaking from personal experience, is, I mean, this is a bit contrarian of me, and this is why I haven't seen Stranger Things, but when people start digging their heels in and insisting upon you that this is right, this is better, and this is just better, it does make you go, back off. And there was something about the clinging onto the desperation of that feeling and the restore the feeling and all of that stuff, and having me watch. It's hard to watch a show every single week and just have these people come and tell me how brilliant the show is.
100%.
I'm like, just do the show then. And there's there's something about that I'll talk about a little bit in when we review Blood and Guts a little bit later on. But like, when you just focus on the work and making the quality of the programming better, look what happens. And I think that's what they have been doing, to their massive credit. So
with AEW, while I don't think they were firing on creative cylinders, business was pretty good for them.
Yeah.
Attendance was down, but I think what's fascinating about AEW is no matter what their attendance is for their building, no matter what their TV ratings are, which, we can drop and it can rise and it can drop again, and it mostly drops more than it rises. And I think with the Nielsen changes as well, that's only further dropping. It's this sort of like weird nebulous world now. Their pay-per-view buy rates are so strong.
Yeah.
And are always strong. TNA, even in the Spike era, when they were like at a peak of their popularity, and they were doing 1 million viewers every single week. So Ollie and I are currently covering the 2013 period of time at the moment, which is the end of the Hogan era. Like, so Hogan leaves at the end of 2013. in a most perfect TNA way, Dixie Carter literally begging him to stay, and Hogan walks away with Dixie Carter holding onto his leg, begging for him to stay. This company will fall apart without you. Hogan is never seen again, and that was the only bit of creative he would agree to when it turned to his final appearance on screen. What a worker! Even when they were doing 1 million viewers every single week, and Meltzer wrote in the Observer about around this time, there could be a natural disaster. TNA would still do 1 million viewers. There could be nothing else on TV. TNA would do 1 million viewers. Like, it was just, no matter what they did, whether it was great, whether it was bad, 1 million people watched. But no one bought the pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Their pay-per-view average was like 8,000 buys. Like 8 to 10,000. That's a really quite naff conversion rate. Yeah. Whereas you look at AEW and you look at what their TV ratings are, and I've got some, and even what their attendance are. The attendance for Wrestle Dream in October was reportedly like 6,200, but the buy rate was 115,000 to 125,000. That is an incredible conversion rate. Yeah. All Out had 12,000 people in attendance, 135 to 140,000 buys. Forbidden Door set an O2 attendance record for a wrestling show, did 122 to 130,000 buys. All in, which some people say was a big failure for TNA because, the Texas one, people thought it was a failure for TNA because they own... Sorry?
AEW.
Sorry, what did I say? TNA.
Sorry, carry on.
I was up at 5 a.m. today.
Everyone knew what you meant. I was just being panicky.
I was up at 5 a.m. today to watch Blood and Guts because I was like, I have to do the nursery drop-off as well. All in, which everyone says, or some people argue was a failure on AEW's part because they only got 20,000 people into a massive stadium. Did 175,000 pay-per-view buys. That is monstrously huge. Particularly when you compare it to TNA, who are doing, like, if they do 60,000 buys, I was like, whoa, they're back. But broadly, they're doing that sort of 20,000 buy level. The levels of business there, and that to me, I would argue, is fan interest. Yeah. Because that is your most dedicated, hardcore audience. Yeah. 1 million people may have watched Impact when it was on Spike, but there was an 8,000 hardcore audience that would buy every single pay-per-view that they put on. AEW have just got this 120 to 130,000 hardcore audience that will buy every single pay-per-view. And of course, those are pay-per-view buys. Doesn't include HBO Max or any other streaming service, right? So that, to me, is what I would argue is why AEW are still the number 2 promotion in America, despite the fact that TNA have got a lot of upswing on them from the back of the WWE partnership. There is still this 20,000 pay-per-view ceiling buy that I don't think they very rarely crack out of.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting conversation, the pay-per-view buy thing anyway, because if I can sort of spitball a little bit, I'm not fully clear on this sort of comparison, but like, as a content creator, if you look at like followers to non-followers and who's watching your stuff and things like that, sometimes you have stuff that hits and it is pushed out to non-followers. And there are people who I watch where I don't follow them necessarily, but I know there's a series, and because I've engaged with a video, I've liked it, I've commented, they'll come back into the feed. I don't have to follow them. I'm still interested in the feed. With AEW, it's one of those things where like they've earned enough of a reputation of having quality wrestlers and having quality matches, and you're gonna get your money's worth because there are 90,000 like matches on this card. That I'm intrigued to watch their pay-per-views even if I'm not watching the weekly TV.
Because you're guaranteed to probably get one match of the year contender.
So even within that 120,000 people buying the thing, probably half of them wouldn't even necessarily be considered hardcore. They're just like wrestling, and they trust that they can. I used to just keep up with NXT takeovers. I didn't watch weekly NXT. It's the same kind of thing, maybe, which I think is a sort of credit to them. Also, the other thing that makes them the secondary and that ends any conversation, as far as I'm concerned, it's a privately owned company with a billionaire in it. Yes, so they have unlimited resource. They have, I give him shit for it a bunch of times, but it's a billionaire's son, and you can go, Dad, can I have another couple million to buy Mercedes Moné?
Yeah, which he doesn't need to, because he took a company and made it profitable within its first couple of years, which actually begged his own belief, because he didn't think it was going to be profitable for a little while. But the TV rights deal was so much bigger than it possibly could be.
And even with Warner Brothers Discovery, this is my point about it. With Warner Brothers Discovery, their business, are they splitting? Are they going to be bought by someone else? Like, what's going on? Nobody knows. There's a lot of uncertainty. All right, well, I'll just pick up and take it somewhere else because it's mine.
It's mine.
And while HBO and the presence of HBO Max and Warner Brothers and TNT and all the rest of it is massive in terms of being able to get that out there for people, the fact that it's the same thing with WCW and Ted Turner. As long as Ted Turner was in charge of the broadcasting network, WCW was fine. When Ted stepped away, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Tony's got this company. As long as Tony's like the one in charge funding the company, it's fine. And because of resource, it's the number 2 company. End of conversation.
That's it, yeah. Like Ted being forced out of his position in Turner and is kind of really what did kill WCW, because he was the one that was there to be like, no, we're keeping this on. And then Jamie Kellner steps in and is like, nope, I think I don't like wrestling. Yeah. But yeah, you're right with Tony Khan. While Warner Brothers or WBD has a stake within AEW, no one's quite sure of what the percentage of that is. It is not enough to them to be the decider whether or not AEW closes.
Yeah.
It is Tony Khan's company. If Tony Khan, if WBD turned around and said like, we're not putting on AEW anymore, then AEW could just say, well, we'll just do it on our own website.
Yeah.
We're just going to do it on YouTube. We're going to do it on Twitch. We're going to do it on wherever it is. We're going to go find a new partner elsewhere and we'll go. But like, I think Tony seems like a fairly loyal kind of guy that he would love to stick with WBD.
Yeah, I bet so.
I think
it's been a great partnership.
It's been a great partnership.
By the looks of things.
And also because he is such a wrestling historian nerd. God, the amount of bloody chat they have about wrestling on TBS.
I know.
They bloody love a lot of that, don't they? They bloody love having a chat about that. So like, I think he quite likes the prestige of being a part of TBS.
He's named 2 titles after the networks.
Well, no, yeah, absolutely. Like
no small part.
I honestly think if TBS got 1 viewer a week, he would want to stay on TBS because the history books then show that he was part of TBS, and that means something in wrestling history. For
sure.
So, yeah, have WWE helped TNA become the second biggest promotion? No. And I don't think it ever will be, because I think they have got a ceiling.
Yeah.
I think that AEW will never be the number 1 promotion because they have a ceiling as well. I think that WWE will forever be the number 1 promotion. Even if TKO keep raising the prices, even if TKO shut down WrestleMania, even if TKO move everything to Saudi Arabia, they will probably always and forever remain the number 1 promotion in America. And the AEW will always and forever remain the number 2 promotion unless Tony decides to shut it down. And I don't think there's anything that TNA or MLW or GCW or anyone else can ever do to catch them up, because they haven't got the billions to back it.
I completely agree.
And speaking of the hardcore of the hardcores, that's you guys over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. We love each and every single one of you, and we want to give you a shout out on this very show, like these fine folk. The Cleaner, Kenny Shah.
They put the Mo in Movember.
And it is Movember currently, but I've not done time. So we were talking about this the other day.
You've got.
Well, I have, but I've got the bottom. So we were talking about this the other day. I suddenly realized, it's November. We've not done a mustache thing this year. And Ollie turned to me, was like, yeah, because your wife hated it last year. And I was like, that is true. She did, and she could not wait for November to end so I could grow back the bottom half of my face. And he was like, I just didn't think Kate would let you do it again. And I was like, it's for charity, though.
Yeah.
And she did
causes.
She did say, I guess if it's for charity, I'll live with it. But he was like, your wife hated it far too much.
In the name of marriage. It was like charity. Luke's marriage.
Yeah. And my mum hated it as well, for the record. The British Bulldog, Philip Boy J. Smith Jr.
Yo, Adrian, Rocky.
He can last your fun longer than you in the ring.
Starbucks, Stephen Costa.
Shield Maiden, Zornice.
Burly Rob Burwell.
Let him cook, Alex.
Apoc Alex, now.
The Swiss submission machine, Andres Fulgisala.
And you can look, but you can't touch Bella Pearson.
Thank you all so much. Please head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. They've got a bunch of exclusive bonus content over there. We have got a TLC episode coming up next month that we filmed yesterday with a special guest. We did remotely. Yeah. Oh. I know. We spent half an hour just trying to work out what the best way to do this, technology-wise, how we're going to frame the cameras and everything. And in the end, I just stepped in and said, can we not just do this on Zoom with one laptop?
Great.
But like, producer Kieran and production manager Ben were sat there with like 3 different feeds and stuff. They were using OBS. Ollie had a laptop. I had a laptop. Kieran had a laptop. We had Zoom on there, and then we couldn't work out the audio. I was like, "Can I just have one?
I'm just gonna log in.
I'm just gonna log in. Put my laptop here. Ollie has one of my earbuds. I have the other one. Problem solved."
Great. Cripes.
And this is why this place would struggle without me.
Keep it simple.
But head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk and check out which will be coming up very, very soon. And also, there's a 3 count tomorrow. Brand new episode of 3 Count, predicting Survivor Series 2025. And over on Patreon, it'll be us reviewing Survivor Series 2001 in 3 words or less /viewer.
Oh, I loved it. I was 11. There's no accounting for taste. You just said that this place would fall apart without you. Can we recreate that Dixie Carter Hogan thing with Ollie grabbing?
Yes, that does work for me, brother.
There you go.
So back in 2009, WWE worried about their pay-per-view buy rates declining. They were like, why aren't people buying pay-per-views anymore? So they came up with the genius idea. Gimmick pay-per-views.
Gimmick pay-per-views.
And they did Hell in a Cell 2009.
Yeah, because there's no long-term consequences to that.
And that featured not 1, not 2, not 4, but 3 Hell in a Cell matches on one show. And boy, let me tell you, when you get to that Triple H and Shawn Michaels versus Legacy main event, I do not want to see a Hell in a Cell match. And it did kill the stipulation a little bit. I think some people argue the same thing about War Games. There being 2 War Games on Survivor Series. By the time you get to the second one, I'm like, I kind of had my fill. I don't think people particularly like War Games that much. No,
it's interesting because I like the idea of it more than I like it. And I think I like the NXT version of it. I mean, I could barely hold my own head up when it was big with WCW. So like, I can't claim to have seen them all. But like, I'm sure those were vintage iconic bits of wrestling.
Yeah, of course.
But like, something about the NXT, the black rings and the darker aesthetic kind of works with it. So I kind of enjoyed it back then. I think that, the Kevin Owens one or whatever. Now we're at a point where there's a level of oversaturation where I'm seeing them all and I'm like, is it my favorite thing? I don't know if it is my favorite thing. There are many things I look forward to in the calendar. And I may be getting a bit ahead of myself here. I think AEW's got a whole bunch of homegrown ones that I look forward to far more than Blood and Guts.
I would actually agree with you. I like the mystique of War Games
more
than actually a War Games match itself.
It's interesting that it's become a part of the calendar. I will say, to the credit of WWE, specifically when it comes to their version of the match, they've kind of found over the last couple of years a way of making one of them about banter and one of them about drama. So, like, is Io Sky going to jump off with a bin on her head this time? Probably. What colour will the bin be? What is the women's match has tended to be about exploits and japes and laughter and hijinks. And the men's matches tended to be about what Sami Zayn going to do as part of the bloodline.
What's the drama?
What's the drama of the show kind of thing. So, like, to their credit, they've sort of managed to find a way of distinguishing between the two.
I agree.
But it does still... They're not my favourite matches because they take half an hour before the match starts.
Yeah, and I think to AEW's credit, they did that on this show as well.
I agree.
I think the women's one, which was my favourite match.
I agree. I liked it the most.
Was all about the violence. Like that, they were just there to do the big, mad, hardcore spots. There was stuff there to further storylines, but ultimately, front and centre, it was about the madness and the chaos of it all. Whereas the men's one in the main event was actually about Moxley. And it was Moxley's Death Riders and what is the state of the Death Riders? What is the state of the psyche of John Moxley? That was the central theme running through the main event, which I did love. But I didn't love that until Moxley came into the match.
Right.
There were elements I did like, but I got into the match more once Moxley got into it. And once the match then got into the match beyond part of it. When it was Darby and Yuta, I did have a little bit of like, sorry, I've had my fill of Blood and Guts actually, and it was earlier in the night, and it took me a little while to get into the second one.
This is going to be a really interesting show to review because inherently, I think I feel quite negatively about the episode of Dynamite from a structural perspective, but there are individual moments of brilliance that I really enjoyed, and it's one of those funny things of, because you've got a 3-match card on a long show, because it's 2 of the same type of match,
that are long,
that are both violent. Like someone was bleeding quite dangerously within the first 5 minutes, which I think personally was a mistake, but we'll get into that. Inherently, you're then left with like, I just feel like as a show overall, I'm quite unsatisfied by it.
So and
yet there is lots to praise as well.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing to review.
I think if it's not your bag, baby.
Yeah.
This is not going to be a show for you, is it? Like I don't love the blood and guts stipulation, and like when they've announced it, I was like, all right, fine, yeah, I guess we'll do this. I mean, I hate the name.
Yeah, the name itself being a troll.
It is, and it is a troll.
It's not one of those trolls that has become like. Yeah. We've got it. It's a troll that stays a troll and now feels a bit retrograde.
Yeah, it is. It'd be like naming something piss ants because that's what Triple H called them at the Hall of Fame speech.
You've not reclaimed Blood and Guts. It's like, that was funny the first year.
That's exactly it. When you did it as a one-off, like if it was a one-off thing, we're doing War Games, we're calling it Blood and Guts because that is what Vince McMahon called AEW on a conference call.
Which they were right to do, by the way, as in AEW were right to call it that.
Yeah.
In that first year.
But it's 6 years on now.
Yeah.
And this match it's just called Blood and Guts. I just think it's a stupid name, and I wasn't particularly looking forward to it. That said, I wonder if because I had fairly low expectations going in, I actually thoroughly enjoyed myself coming out of this because I got so much out of the first one, and by the time that the second one really kicked into gear, I got so much out of the second one as well. Do I want them to do two every year though? No. On the same show, that is. I don't. I just don't.
We saw it on Raw this week that Regal comes out and yells War Games in the backstage segment. And the reason that used to hit is because it was not a thing that we already knew was in the calendar. Like, obviously, reports are and and the booking.
I'd say even NXT, November is coming up. We're going to do
what I mean?
War Games.
It's more effective, though, if it organically comes. And I think that when you have got a date in the calendar where we're having them, and in the name of parity, I appreciate they are doing it, but we're going to have a men's one and a women's one.
No, I agree with you because I think like this year it's at a different point this year. Usually this comes earlier in the calendar. But to your point, and what I do agree with is you've got two concurrent storylines in a women's division and a men's division that's necessitated you doing a blood and guts match. That then feels inorganic.
Yeah.
That both your divisions have come to this conclusion at the same time. So, which is where I feel it's a little bit clunky.
I think clunky is the word.
Yeah. If you spread this out, and you don't, like, it's not October, it's not November, it's not June, we're just doing
just a bit of unpredictability. To your Hell in a Cell point, isn't this like the first year there hasn't been one since like yonks ago?
Well, I mean, so they did obviously Hell in a Cell last year with Punk and Drew, but even that one felt like it was the first one in ages.
This year.
Yeah.
Because like there was one at WrestleMania 39. Sponsored by Russell Crowe.
That's sponsored by Russell Crowe.
With all this colourful...
Edge came out to Slayer. So the only thing I remember of that match is Russell Crowe and Slayer.
Oh, no, but there were colourful kendo sticks.
Kendo sticks, that's right.
There were the lightsaber kendo sticks.
Depending on which team you were on.
Exactly. And then there was Drew and Punk.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been one this year.
You're absolutely right, yeah.
So I think that's good because it means when you hear that, you're gonna get it. But the oversaturation of the same type of match across two companies is unfair, I think, for one. But like the two of these in one show, and in the middle of it is a Falls Count Anywhere match where I was a little bit like, you want me to take a breather and it's a Falls Count Anywhere match?
I think it was too much.
And then at the end of the match, you're magically summoning the cage down, and then he's going, and the stipulation for us is going to be a steel cage. I'm desensitized. Like, it doesn't have an impact on me. Do I want to watch that steel cage match? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to be great? Absolutely. But the moment of saying it's going to be violent, what proportion of violent is it compared to this match?
That's it. Yeah, when Excalibur was like, that's one of the most violent match stipulations. I was like, dude, you're on a show that's called Blood and Guts with two of these things.
Excalibur and team desperate to try and sell this the whole time. This is the confusing part of reviewing this specific show for me. Is that there's there's moments of brilliance, and yet it's so peppered by just desensitized and like you're trying too hard, and like I can't fully sink into it. I have the overall negative feeling about some things that I really enjoyed. It's such a weird show.
With all that said, I thought this opening match was match of the year.
Did you really?
I loved this
match of the year.
I would have this in my conversation. I had such a wonderful time with this opening Blood and Guts match. I'm being hyperbolic when I say match of the year. Well, but I think this is my favorite Blood and Guts match that AEW have ever done. And I think it is my favorite War Games match in many years.
Many moons.
Many moons. And I actually will even put it above the Bloodline one where Sammy officially joins the group and Jay hugs him at the end.
Yeah.
Because for me, that is not a match about war games.
It's the drama.
That is the drama. I was super into that. As a war games match, that match is broadly fine.
Yeah.
But the drama in there is 5 stars.
Yeah.
It's a 5-star angle in a 2.5-star match. Whereas I thought this was just 5 stars in terms of just violence and chaos and madness, and I adored it. In a 2.5-star story match.
Yeah.
It was the Triangle of Madness: Mercedes Moné, Marina Shafir, and Megan Bayne taking on Jamie Hayter, Willow Nightingale, Harley Cameron, Marina Shirakawa, Chris Allen, and Tony Storm. Too many people, part 1.
Yes, yeah.
But Sky and Willow start this, and within, I don't know, it's within 5 minutes because it was before the second person came out, Sky Blue was busted open, and boy, was she bleeding.
She did that Eddie blade job.
Yeah. I was going to say, and like Kyle O'Reilly did one later on. Love it. I'm all in, bud. I'm all in on it. I think it's rad.
You're a blood in your wrestling kind of person, and I'm not. And it's like, so like, you know, for those who are going to sit at home and go, well, why did you get Dan on to review this one? Blame Ollie being at a golf
Ollie's playing
tournament. But no, I even within that, you kind of have to check your own personal things and go like, well, let's appreciate what's going on. I just thought someone bleeding within the first 5 minutes was like, wait.
I think it sets up the violence of the match, though. I think like within.
I mean, that's true. That's
like
fair.
The first few spots that you do, someone is busted open. It's like, well, she is one of 12 people in this match. Like, what on earth is going to happen next? And they did do, I think, a nice escalation of violence as they went.
That's very true. But it was my initial reaction was, but you telling me this is the most violent match in the world and you're bleeding like that because you got pounced into the cage.
Yeah.
Something I've seen happen 15 million times. Like it didn't have that kind of impact for me. But you're right. When you then I think the rest of the match was, the escalation was real.
I mean, I figured that something bad was going to happen when all of the babyface team came out wearing white.
Yeah.
I was like, they understood the assignment. Julia Hart then came in for the heel team. Harley Cameron came in dressed as Tifa from Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, is it a cosplay?
Yeah, it was a cosplay outfit, yeah. Tekla then came in, who used a belt. Jamie Hayter came in with a bag of tacks that, you know, like... Well, you know when you get like a paper bag and you go...
yeah.
And you make it bang? That is what it felt like happened. Because all of a sudden there was this bang and tacks went poof and just went everywhere.
And it was like, well, I guess that moment of me going like, this is finished...
Yesterday, so on Wednesday, because we record these on Thursdays, I went for a run. Just want to brag, everyone. I go for runs sometimes on my lunch break. I can do
nuts.
Yeah, I do a 5K in sub 29.
Too many Ks.
Yeah, I nearly did one in sub 28 the other week. But anyway, I was going for my run, right? And we've got a shower cubicle in the office that is too small. If you want to get a shower in there and get dried afterwards, fine. But getting dressed and undressed, tricky. There's not a lot of room. So I'm just going to do it in one of the bogs instead. So I went into one of the lavs and I was, getting changed. And I put the toilet seat down and I was sat on there and putting on my knee brace because I've got naff knees. So I put on my knee brace, put on my brace. I then heard the loudest bang. And I was like, oh my God, what's happened? I stood up and looked down. I had exploded the toilet seat that I was sat on and shattered it into 3 separate pieces.
Sitting?
Just from sitting on it. And I think it's because I was leaning, because you've lifted my leg up, so I'm putting extra pressure on it. But it exploded and there were just shards of it everywhere. But it was in 3 neat pieces, but there were shards of other bits everywhere. That's what happened with this tack bag.
Yeah.
I was so surprised at this. I don't think they expected it either. And now they don't have a toilet seat for the rest of this match.
And Jamie Hayter's probably got a knee brace on as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, probably at this point. So Bayne then gets in, and who I thought was awesome.
Oh my God, she looked incredible. Can we just the presentation of Megan Bayne in this moment was top notch.
Is great. She comes in, she's just battering everyone. No selling offense. It's awesome. Particularly when the bin lid shot from Harley Cameron.
Yeah. She's not in the match yet, so I'll mention it in a second.
Then Chris Statlander came in, who then wrestled the first part of this with her world title still on
which
her.
Was lit.
It was so good. We had Armin Ron Ford, who was supposed to be in this match, but unfortunately due to injury got taken out. So they then sort of went to the back and stuff.
Yeah.
We had then Mercedes out next, who brilliantly had no sense of urgency to get into this match.
Smart. Why would you?
She reversed the Saturday Night Fever into a DDT onto the title, then posed with hits to further because they've got the match at Full Gear for the title. She then gets out of the cage and just starts handing everyone some of her other world titles to use as weapons, which I thought was fun. Mina came in with a barbed wire baseball bat. Chris Statlander was busted open ahead of this. Marina Shafir then came out, and she dragged Statlander out of the cage and pulled out the bed of nails, then knocked Statlander into that bed of nails. Gnarly stuff. And then Tony came down as the last entrant for the babyface team, and she used a pearl necklace as the weapon.
Yep.
Pearl necklace.
And do you want to elaborate on why that's funny?
It's a cum joke.
Okay.
And that was obviously the last bit. So now the match officially begins. Now we're into the match beyond.
Yeah.
And it was 36 minutes into the show. And I loved it.
Yeah.
Toni Storm does the Taipei deathmatch stuff. She gets the tape fist with shards of the champagne bowls. Throwbacks to the Mariah May feud. I just wrote in my notes here. This feels like utter chaos. It was just, everyone was just doing stuff it wasn't like two people in the corner going buff, buff, buff. This was just, no matter where you looked, something mad was happening. Hater powerbomb Sky Blue into a table, but I am the table. It did not break.
Can I just say, the tables on this particular episode did not want to play their part.
They don't. Not even in the. I was like, oh well. It's sometimes in the
women are
match,
littler and smaller.
The women are littler and smaller. I am only saying this because I was at an indie show recently where a tiny lad, and part of his gimmick is he's a tiny lad. Ted Sabin, great wrestler by the way, a wonderful personality to have, but he's quite small. Like, I'm taller than him, and I'm not a tall person. He's quite a light frame. They did a big spot where they threw him outside onto a table to go through it, and he just bounced off of it because he's got a light frame. And I was like, it's just one of those things. They tried and they didn't do it. No, you then had Claudio Castagnoli.
It took two people to barrel through Claudio to get through that table.
I was like, oh no, it's a problem with the tables.
Yes,
like,
this was a table issue.
It's a table issue. Matthew's going to have a hell of a time on the next Botchamania. Harley Cameron pulled out the Mercedes Moné puppet to a massive pop, and Mercedes Moné freaks out. She grabs the puppet off the hand, but beneath the puppet was brass knucks.
Yeah,
she punched Mercedes.
That
Moné.
was great
Stuff. Hart and Tekla then somehow snaked out of the cage.
They were little. They were little. There were holes in the cage.
Their light frames were able to get out. Tekla then attacked the referee and unlocked the cage. So then they started brawling outside of the cage and stuff. We had a Samoan drop off the side of the cage to Mercedes Moné by Chris Statlander through a table. Toni Storm has the shoe, and there's glass, and there's a DDT to Shafir. They get a mirror to do the hip attack, but Marina Shafir just absolutely twats Toni Storm with it. Glass goes everywhere.
Great visual.
We then had Marina Shafir with a figure four with the barbed wire bat to Megan Bayne. But Marina Shafir, with her shoeless feet, with her bootless feet, stomps her foot into the glass, then stomps that foot into Mina Shirakawa to break it up. Then Shafir starts choking out Mina Shirakawa as Bayne is battering her with the belt. And Toni Storm is being held back by the Triangle of Madness and being forced to watch what is happening. And Toni Storm, to save her friend, quits, and she because you can only win via tap out or by surrender. She surrenders for the match to save her friend, which neatly builds them versus Marina Shafir and Megan Bayne in the tag title tournament. So there was a lot of like bits here to further individual feuds or tag feuds, and I absolutely loved it.
I thought it was really effective. I thought it was really fun. This is what I mean by I'm like, why are you bleeding so early on? Like, it's just because there's now nowhere to build. Well, I think they managed to find a way to, and it's because they made it a little bit silly, a little bit ridiculous, and I actually think that is sort of that's the key to a match like this. Is like it's and when we talk about the men's one later on, it's why certain weapons just don't do it for me, because I actually love the explosion of the mirror.
Yes,
I love the thing that has paint on it. I love that they bring all the belts in, and that's well, of course you've got all these belts, they're weapons, you might as well use them, even though I do think commentary tried a bit too hard.
Yeah, Brian Daniels, because like I said, was like, I mean, and Brian Daniels, you get hit with the title belt, that hurts just as much as some weapons.
He said they I wrote it down because it was so ludicrous. He said, and they said the commentary said a few ludicrous things. Those belts can rip and tear your flesh. Let me tell you, they absolutely can't. Like, they just can't.
I thought Brian Danielson went, I mean, it depends on the belt.
It depends. He fully did, because also I'm looking at these belts, and with all due respect to the independent women's scene around the world, these belts aren't exactly like,
they're not jewel encrusted.
They're not jewel encrusted. So like, for it was Megan, wasn't it, doing the at the end?
At the end, yeah.
For her to be whipping, that's how you use that belt.
Yeah.
To be, like, absolutely, that's great. That was a great visual.
Yeah. And that line on commentary was there as a Chekhov's gun for the finish when they were whipping it with it to make it like to really put over.
Was it, or was that just there because they did this a lot?
I think it was Chekhov's.
I think it was happy coincidence. But like it was really effective in that regard. I don't love better nails. That's a personal thing.
Good for your back though.
What is it?
Yeah.
Really?
That's why a bed of nails exists. It's good.
I thought it was just one of those things like, Snake Charming, and like I thought it was like a.
No, I think it's actually good for your core. I've got not a bed of.
I've got a bed of nails.
Not a bed
just at home.
But I've got a Shakti mat.
So they've got a Reformer Pilates, the bed of nails studio. Like, you got a what?
Shakti mat.
A Shakti mat?
Yeah. So like one of those things that's just got like little mini spikes in it and stuff, and you lay out and you sort of spread your weight across it.
Okay.
And it's a way to sort of focus the mind.
Well, there you go. My apologies to the bed of nails community.
I think Statline had a lovely time actually.
Yeah, if anything.
I mean, it's not the best way to get on it.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like. It was. I loved the table spot. I loved that we get the shot of everyone celebrating and Mercedes is having a kip. It was brilliant. Like, that part of it is. There's something about the high stakes ludicrosity of it.
What a word!
I know. Which, well, earlier on I mentioned that AEW has its own homegrown things that I prefer to this match type. Anarchy in the Arena is the example I come to, or Stadium Stampede. They are themselves so big, so grand, so ludicrous that it's more entertaining to me.
Yeah.
And I think to the women, especially this being their first one, they kind of had a blank slate, even though we've seen women's matches in WWE, the AEW version of this match type. We haven't seen that yet. They had a lot to prove. I think they did a really effective job of doing it. I think they sold multiple stories. The Stat and Mercedes story was sold really well there. The tag feuds were sold really well there. Just Tony Storm's continual being Tony Storm. She's got a lot more character depth in there as well. I think it was really effective.
Yeah. The reports are that usual banged up.
Yeah.
In terms of like, they took a bit of a beating. Jamie had chipped some teeth.
Of course she did.
And I think it's when she got thrown out of the cage or like dragged out of the cage.
She went hard way down those stairs.
I think she chipped some tooths there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, very effective.
We got the Don Callis family attacking Jurassic Express backstage because we've got this $1 million match happening at Full Gear. And they were doing it to show to the Bucks, hey, look what happens when we work together. Like, they disrespect you, we're going to beat them up for you. You should join our crew. And Okada comes out with them and he's like, TikTok, like, we need a decision by next week because next week Kenny Omega is coming back, and the Don Callis family said we're going to do the same to Kenny. Send a message. We then had Hangman Adam Page taking on Powerhouse Hobbs in a Falls Count Anywhere match. I don't think this needed to be as gimmicky as it was on a match that had 2 war games on it.
That's what I mean by it being just like, it just was there, and I didn't really feel anything for it. It's the world champ in a match, and I like Hobbs as well. Like, it just didn't. I
like the story.
I
like because he's got a match with Shibata next week, so I think that's good of going through the cronies before you get to the head boss. Good. Like, I think all of that is absolutely fine. It was just because it was another hardcore match when you've got 2 hardcore matches that are also within cages. And to your point as well, they lowered down the cage to do the sort of final promos bit as well. Hobbs looked great in this match. Page looked awesome. They then had the finish, really, we always want to talk about, which is when Hobbs gets booted off the sort of like stands where the fans were, and he fell onto a production table that had little sparklers and stuff go off, and they flickered the lights within the arena.
Halloween was last week.
Look, you know what? For me, it's the right side of Goofy. Like, it is goofy.
It's the wrong side of Goofy for me. The sparks, love it. But the lights going, whoa.
Oh, no, that actually is the lights that sold me on it.
Yeah.
It was like when TNA had the electrified steel cage match and they lowered the light stuff every time they went into the cage. Loved it. I played a little sound of it going bzz, 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 bzz.
I also, it was another one of those, oh God, this is what I mean by trying too hard the whole time. Like, sometimes you just got to trust it. Sometimes you just got to let it be. Like, they went hard on how heavy the flight cases are. They're like, flight cases are massive. Cut back to a production assistant. The ref just supposed to beach balling it out of the way. That's a bit of foam. Like, that's not hurt him at all. But like, it just frustrated me in that regard. Like, it didn't. All of the gimmicks weren't necessary, I think.
Afterwards, Joe and Shibata attacked Hangman Adam Page, and Joe called for the War Games thing to be lowered. I don't know why production did lower it.
No, because it's magic. They must be. They're bringing it down.
It was like the dove from above.
They say, yeah. I haven't thought about the dove from above in a long time.
And then Eddie and Hook ran down to make the save, and Joe and Shibata bailed. What I did like about this is Page saying, if you wanted a cage match, all you had to do was ask, dumbass.
Yeah.
Because that is how their world title feud was started, was if you wanted a world title match, all you had to do was ask. You didn't need to throw a hissy fit in order to get one. So I like there's a little bit of mirroring within it, a bit of callback and stuff. So I think that's nice. And a cage match between the two of them to keep all the outside interference, great stuff for Full Gear.
Announce that next week, though.
Is it next week or is it the week after?
No, I mean announce that. Say give it the stipulation next week. I just in terms of like making the absolute impact of that thing.
Yes.
On this show.
I would agree.
Okay.
I completely agree with you because it is, because then you're like, whoa, it's one of the most dangerous match types. It's like, dude, this match we're about to have has got 2 cages on it. Then we had a segment with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat being brought out. This was supposed to also have Ric Flair in it, but the report is that he was too hurt to be able to do this. He said he was in a ton of pain. He's just had rotator cuff. He's just recovered from a rotator cuff injury. And so this was there because respecting wrestling history, Greensboro, NWA, WCW, TBS.
Sometimes I go to AFC Wimbledon with my friend who is... does things with AFC Wimbledon. Is one of the sponsors and the rest of it. So we get hospitality.
Oh, very nice.
And it's lovely. And we go and have a little buffet. And there's a nice drink.
Bit of finger food?
Not finger food. Full plate.
Oh man,
it's lovely. Real nice stuff. Very nice hospitality. Lovely stadium in Plough Lane. Absolutely love it.
I can't believe they're just a lot of finger sandwiches.
It's not finger sandwiches. It's like full on.
That's what I mean. I'm surprised it's not just fingers.
No prawn cocktails there.
What?
I know. It's good food as well.
So if you want me to finger some sandwiches, like,
there you
go.
And while I'm eating at the tables, they wheel out someone from Wimbledon past, and they sit up there and they have a conversation. And the man's like, "Wow, do you remember when you were in that match?
Yeah,
at that stadium. Oh, huge memories." And everyone in the room pretends they remember. Mm-hmm. That's what's happening here.
It is a little bit like this. Greensboro, North Carolina knows wrestling history.
Yeah.
And the building that we're in.
That sign was cool. And wrestling it was like, lovely. All the rest of it.
That fan there who had the Mount Rushmore sign with Steamboat, Sting, Dusty, and Flair on it. Like, it was like, that fan there was having the time of his life.
It just felt like this is a dark segment.
I thought this was for the national championship thing because that is Tony Khan having a wank over wrestling history. Dude, I am not getting. I will get into it in a little bit later because a lot of people brought me up on the fact that I talked about AEW having too many titles, but I didn't mention anything else. But I'll get onto that in a little bit.
Okay.
So anyway, he's there talking about history and wrestling and whatnot. FTR come out. They do usual heel style shenanigans with them because Dax was taught by Ricky Steamboat, but you actually taught me nothing. They tagged with him in their final match, but it meant nothing to them. The only thing you taught me, they kept mentioning Flair as well, and I had no idea that Flair was supposed to be there. I hadn't seen that it was advertised. So it was until I came out later and I was like, that's why they kept saying Flair's name.
Right.
But so the only thing that you and Flair ever taught me was to save your money so you don't have to take bookings like this. Way to bury your own thing. And then...
or Jericho.
Exactly, yes. And then he goes nose to nose with Ricky. Ricky's like, look, I'm going to turn 73 soon. I'm just going to leave. And then... FTR attack him afterwards. They're going to give him the pile driver. Bro Dido run down to make the save. 21 plex to cash. And then Ricky knocks down Dax. And obviously they get sent to the back. Good stuff. I think if you were there live, it'd have been lovely.
It's just a weird thing on this show. Do you know what I mean? It just didn't fit. But like,
I'd have had another match.
Maybe. I don't know what. It was a dark segment. I'm looking forward to the match they're going to have.
That match is going to be awesome.
And they showcased that. So in that regard, it's a success.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just happened.
And then we got to our main event, which was the Death Riders versus the Conglomeration and Darby Allin in Blood and Guts. And yeah, it took me a little while to get into this. I think that the first half of this was just stuff. It's Darby and Yuta, then Orange Cassidy was in. The faces had the advantage, which, traditional War Games ruling says that's the wrong way to do it.
Yes.
Because the whole point is the babyfaces should be at the disadvantage within this. But I think they worked it well enough that the heel still felt like they had the advantage because Mark Briscoe gets taken out. And it also furthers the storyline of Moxley because Mox is the reason why the Death Riders didn't have the advantage, because Mox is in his own head, and that's why he's on this losing streak now without him actually having tapped out or pinned. He got DQ'd against Kyle O'Reilly, got counted out, or the double count out against Kyle O'Reilly, and he got counted out again by Roderick Strong. So him being on this losing streak is what has made the Death Riders be put into this position. So I think it works in that aspect of it. If they manage to make it work into making it work within the confines of a wrestling match where the heels get the heat. Then you had Garcia coming in, and this is where you had, I think, was the strongest bit of this, which is the story. Danielson said on commentary, this is bad strategy from Moxley. I don't know why Garcia is out next. You have Claudio Castagnoli right there. He should be in this match sooner. He's your ace. Put him in. And Mark Briscoe was supposed to be in next, but he doesn't come out. And they cut back to Renee, and it looks like Mark Briscoe's been taken out. He was taken out by the Don Callis family. So Kyle goes out instead, or maybe it was Roddy that went down. I think it was Roddy. Claudio then came in next. There's some fun stuff with Orange Cassidy. Kyle O'Reilly came in next. And then Moxley, I thought, when
it was going to be last.
I thought it was going to be last. And Danielson again said, this is bad strategy. Why is Moxley coming out now?
Yeah.
He should be out last. He is the team captain. Why is he coming out now? And I thought Excalibur did a really good job on this. He was like, it's because the Death Riders are winning.
He's glad handing.
He's doing this bit now because now he can just go in and take advantage of the work that Claudio and Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia have done. He doesn't have to do any of the legwork. He can just go in while they're on top and just reap the rewards of that, which I thought was great because he's so paranoid about his position within AEW and position towards the rest of the roster. I thought that was a really nice bit of detail. And then we got the countdown for the final man of the babyface team, but no one comes out. Because they're at a 5-on-4 disadvantage thanks to a voice note from Renee Paquette to explain. Then we got Pac coming in last, so the match can officially begin. Mark Briscoe comes down against medical advice. He gets bolt cutters to get in. Doodle-doodle-doo. They get up on top of the cage. Mark hits the J Driller onto Wheeler Yuta onto a bunch of chairs on top of the cage. Gabe Kidd then showed up from out of nowhere, and he dragged Darby away. And he and Pac get Darby up onto the entrance tunnel. They set up some tables, and then Gabe Kidd set those buggers on fire, and Pac body slammed Darby Allin off the entrance ramp through the flaming tables, and Darby Allin did catch fire, and I thought it was pretty cool. And then we had the Bulldog choke, because Mox is like, haha, look at us. All of my plans. Everyone says I'm a bad strategist, but all my plans are coming together. He is absolutely, he's cock of the walk. He's well happy with himself. And he gets the Bulldog choke on Kyle O'Reilly. But Kyle O'Reilly gives him the finger. And then all of the baby faces just start making this comeback. And Moxley goes into panic mode. And Kyle O'Reilly gets him in the ankle lock, which Moxley wouldn't tap out to, so much so that he battered the referee to get himself DQ'd. And he's writhing in pain. He managed to transition to the Bulldog choke. Haha. But Kyle O'Reilly reverses again, and he gets in the ankle lock, and he drags him through the glass that has been spread around. And Moxley is screaming in agony. And there's no way out for him this time. He cannot get himself DQ'd. He can't get himself counted out. And so he taps out. Moxley submits. I thought it was an awesome finish. I loved the storytelling. I loved the visual of everything. I thought they told a superb tale throughout this. But boy, it took half an hour to get to that tale. And the stuff up until then was just stuff.
I think you've put it very, very well. I think that is exactly how I felt about the match as well. I think there are obviously personal things I've got there where I'm like, a fork does nothing for me. The kind of gross out part of, I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to push it into you and go while I'm doing it. I'm like, all right. There are certain wrestlers that don't connect with you. Moxley and Darby are two of those for me. So whenever they have feuds together, I'm like, well, I'm not, this is not going to be a match for me. But the psychological narrative going on there's loads to engage with there. So I really appreciated that, and I enjoyed that it was served as a massive deal. It wasn't like, you know, one of the lackeys was going to be the one to surrender on his behalf, because you could use the surrender thing, but the women haven't used the surrender thing earlier on.
Exactly, yeah. Or even just tapping out Wheelie Yuta. Whereas like, it doesn't actually, okay, you tapped out Wheelie Yuta, what does that mean? But Mox being the guy to submit. This
is a big deal. I think that's really effective. There was more, again, with the disillusionment thing for me, there was more like commentary that I need. Like I think there was such a desperation to make the stakes feel so high that it just put me off. Like there are things like, oh, what's that in Orange Cassidy's back pocket? I think it might be an elbow pad.
Yeah, it was.
And then like, oh my God, is that a meat hook? No, it's demonstrably a carabiner. Like, chill out. Like they're so desperate to get it over that it's actually working against it. And that's another reason that it took me such a long time to really settle into the match. I also personally find how much of both of the matches to a degree took place outside.
Yeah. Not
this
inside.
Is why I mean Anarchy in the Arena
is a better fit.
Is a far better fit for me than this, because if you're going to do this, surely keeping them in the cage is part of it. And so that it becomes such a. I remember in Foley is Good, or the other one. No, it's Foley is Good. I can't remember. It's one of them. Mick Foley talks about how he was like gutted that no one was reacting to his retirement match with Triple H.
Yeah.
No one's reacting to the near falls, and it's because nobody expects him to not get out of the cage and climb to the roof, because that is something that they talked about, because that is something that has happened in previous matches. So like, you kind of expect them to go there. There's a certain level of expectation of things that are happening, but at this point, I'm going to make such a big deal out. Now the cage is locked, but in both matches, the cage lock didn't do anything.
It didn't actually matter.
So the stakes of it are like, they're so much lower.
Agreed.
The desensitization to all of the gross out weapons are so much lower, because you're trying so desperately to convince me that a metal belt is a cheese grater, or a fork is, you know, something so deranged when I watch this guy try and like suffocate two different people. Like, it's so, do you know what I mean? I'm just whatever. But the narrative elements of it were so engaging. I think that's where it comes to this weird thing of like, I didn't feel positively about it, but I felt positively about it in the same breath.
No, which I think is completely fair, because I've got a similar vibe to it. Like, I was so into the story of this one. I was so much more into the violence of the women's match than I was in the men's one. The Derby Flaming Table spot is great.
It's all to do with stakes. I think the stakes in the women's one felt lower.
Yeah, because it wasn't really for anything, or like there was no like big overarching
bragging rights,
narrative.
Individually, one getting over each other, whatever.
But in this one, it was all about the fall of the Death Riders, and in particular, the fall of Moxley, who was on this losing streak. And not just like in terms of in-ring, this mental losing streak that he's on as well, where he is just falling apart as a character. And I think that is so much more interesting than him stabbing someone with a fork.
Yeah.
Or even actually Darby going through the Flaming Table, which I thought was a cool spot.
It was a cool spot.
But, you know, it's like Darby would have done that in a singles match. Like
that part.
Like, it would need to be blood and guts for that sort of... or if it was Anarchy in the Arena. Like, which I completely agree with you here. But why are we doing War Games? Because of wrestling history.
Yeah.
And it's TBS.
And we're in Greensboro.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
Like, so it's a WCW hotbed. So we're going to do the WCW, the NWA thing.
Just for me, it's this thing of like, okay, well, if you're going to do Blood and Guts, if you're going to do War Games, do it. Stop doing it and breaking the rules of it to, you know, because otherwise, what have I got to buy into?
Yeah.
That's a, you know.
Or I would argue, sorry, I don't want to cut you off there, or do it in one.
Yeah.
Do it in one of them when they get out of the cage. Don't do it in both of them when they get out of the cage.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point.
So yeah, I enjoyed the episode of Dynamite overall. It's still not going to make me look forward to Blood and Guts next year. But I will say, I do think the women's one was probably the best Blood and Guts match they've done.
But did it make me go, Full Gear's worth checking out? Yes. So in that regard, success.
Sold you on that one.
There you go.
Right, lastly, we're going to get into your comments from last week's video and actually some of your Ultra Chats in.
Hello.
Because we made the announcement on Tuesday's episode of Raw, the podcast that we did, that we're doing a bit of an experiment until the end of the year.
You love an experiment here at WrestleTalk, don't you?
Well, we do, because you always got to be adapting with the ever-changing
Stay
landscape of YouTube's algorithm. What we have found is that live streaming shows doesn't get surfed out afterwards as much as pre-recorded stuff. So if you do a live stream, it might get pushed out at the time, but it's then not pushed out post it going live.
You have to go seeking it.
And the majority of the views for a live stream podcast that we did came post it being live. You know, 3,000 people will watch it while the show is on, but then there's 25,000 people that watch it afterwards. So, or like 20,000 people that watch it afterwards. So you got to serve those masters instead. So we're doing this thing. We found that the numbers have gone up since we have put them as pre-recorded podcasts. It means that we don't get the interaction and stuff, so we're working out ways to get around that. The hilarious knock-on effect is that by putting up a second pre-recorded video, it hurts the news. So it's a real tricky balance that we're trying to figure out, and YouTube's just not helping whatsoever. But it means that we couldn't do the Ultra Chats, and people were sending in Ultra Chats ahead of the stream. So we're very sorry that those didn't get read out, but I am going to read them out here. So you did, your money was well spent. This is from Sydney in Oz, who said, I don't think Gunther should be seen as last match. He gets nothing from it. It's not a versus career match. You win, but you don't retire Cena. He is leaving, win or lose anyway. Cardona, Rusev, Barrett, Sheamus, IC titles are better stories to right wrongs.
I loved the choice to put the belt on Cena. I think there's something so interesting. I think it instantly makes the tournament more interesting. That I mentioned to a friend of mine I was DMing with, like, you know, Sheamus. It instantly gives Sheamus an extra goal to really go for it, rather than just being like, oh, I could have the final match with Johnny. Not there to retire him. You're there to be the person who had John Cena's last match. That in of itself is an accolade. There's a belt at the end of it, even better. And I think that, like, you know, I'm a young NXT upstart, and I'm gonna try and get one in. If I'm gonna go nuts in fantasy book, like, somehow they finally become friends, and Triple H and Tony Khan agree that Edge can show up for one of the matches. Obviously, it's not gonna happen, but like, Edge is like, I'm gonna get it, and then out comes an NXT star and takes it over. Whatever. I think, like, there are so many different fun things that can happen as a result of it, that it instantly for me was like, oh, this is suddenly more fun. Yeah, you know,
but I don't mind it being Gunther. Sorry, that was from Pat the Booker as well, not Cindy in Oz. Apologies, but I don't mind it being Gunther.
No, I don't. I also, because there's a Gunther gets it.
Also, I think Gunther needs a bit of a character reset anyway, and I think him winning the IC title, that belt that he actually did, his run made feel like an important belt again, I think kind of might be what he needs.
And then they can do Gunther and Sheamus for the Intercontinental title.
You know what? I don't hate it at all.
Thank you.
Carlos here says, I'm falling out of love with wrestling. I blame TKO and Triple H. Greed and ego have taken over. I've turned my wife into a new fan. Her favorite is CM Punk, and it broke my heart that we couldn't afford tickets in Utah to see him win the world title live.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about it on this podcast I did with Ollie a couple of weeks ago. Business, man.
Well, it is business. And Hangman Page did an interview ahead of Blood and Guts where he was talking about how like the prices to get into Blood and Guts in Greensboro were $30.
Yeah.
It was like $29 a ticket.
Yeah.
But then he said, what a great family event.
Yeah, well, that was an interesting choice.
Yeah, I mean, look, Hangman, I appreciate you trying to tell people that as a family you can go out and buy tickets. And as a family, that is an affordable ticket price. I don't think I would say that Blood and Guts was a family-friendly event. We were at Forbidden Door. And we met this couple who came to the sort of little meet and greet they did, and they were there with their 10-year-old. And I was there being like, I mean, I know what the main event of this is. It's an unsanctioned cage match that's got Darby Allin and Jon Moxley, and it's going to be absolutely mad. And we bumped into them at the end of the show as well. And the kid went, that was awesome!
Of course they did, because that's what 10-year-olds do.
But I said that to my wife. She was like, you are never taking our child to a wrestling show like that.
Yeah. I think what I would say in regards to that, if I could, because I think I see this in a lot of different things. Take your vengeance at TKO and make it wider. Because it's not just TKO.
Oh, yeah.
TKO are operating as a corporation, as a business, in an environment, in a capitalist society that they are in, a late stage capitalist society where, and this spreads wider to like Spotify, to
it's everything.
It's
enshittification, man.
Enshittification. It's we can raise the prices because people will pay for it, and as long as there are people who are willing to pay £20,000 for a ringside seat, they'll charge £20,000 for a ringside seat.
Yeah. They'll charge $25,000 a week.
I was reading an article this morning about artists coming together and trying to push the government to fight back against like ticket touts and things like that, who raise they take inflated prices and then they do even more inflated prices and things like that. Things like what is it called when like it's the
dynamic pricing.
That one, yeah, bullshit. Take it up with the people who can make a difference. TKO are just operating in an environment that they're operating in.
On that note, though, because people kicked off at Ticketmaster with the Oasis thing during the summer, but the dynamic pricing. But Oasis signed off on doing it. It's like these ticket companies aren't doing it behind their back. Like I did kick off a little bit about this in my personal life. I can't go see Radiohead. Ollie's friend managed to get us tickets for it. It was really hard to get tickets for the Radiohead show. And Ollie messaged me being like, good news, we've got tickets. Bad news is we are right at the back, touching the wall levels at the back. Further bad news, they are 140 quid each. And I was like, I just cannot justify spending 140 quid to have bad seats at a gig.
Yeah.
I just can't afford that at the moment. So I had to turn that ticket down. We've sold it to a friend of ours instead. But I'm genuinely annoyed at that. And the reason why, because those tickets were originally £60. But because of the dynamic pricing, by the time that Graham was in the queue to get them, they were 140 quid or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I got screwed by dynamic pricing. I'm angry at Ticketmaster. I'm equally as mad at Tom York and Radiohead because they agreed to do it.
And FIFA doing it with the World Cup as well. This is a society-wide thing, really. I mean, it's frustrating as hell for us as the consumers, and ultimately, as with everything, we're the ones who will end up losing. Like, as we always do, it's the consumers who are going to be the ones who end up losing out on this.
Yeah.
So I agree with you completely, and I'm sorry it's disillusioning you as a wrestling fan. Take it up with the people who can do something about it.
Well, that's it, yeah. It's like when...
Because it's worthy. It's a worthy thing to get pissed about.
My wife was saying to me the other day that there are parents who get really angry at schools for being fined for taking kids out of school to go up onto cheaper holidays. And the reason they do that is because it's too expensive to get a holiday during the school holidays because the holiday companies have put the prices up.
Yeah.
And my argument to that was like, well, don't be angry at the school then.
Yeah.
They are bad in what they've done there, but that is as a direct response to this bit over here. These are the people you need to be angry at.
Yeah.
So it's targeting your anger in the right directions. A Ninja says, genuinely F this company. You take one of the biggest angles of the year and put it on ice for 2 weeks as being Bron Breakker.
Right.
Just to have scammer Logan Paul join them and he's the first challenger for Punk's title reign. This new landscape sucks.
Okay.
And Jordy Bus Driver here says, hi lads, not sure why it's not letting me put... all of these have got commas in between the words.
Great.
Hi lads, not sure why it's not letting me put spaces in. And it's a bit off topic, but I met Tony Khan at my work the other day and he was absolutely lovely. What a Rusev Hey. Which is a lovely throwback. So we used to have a segment on the podcast called Rusev Hey.
Great.
Which is when you'd meet a wrestler and you would then send us an email being like what your interaction was like.
Very nice.
So yeah, thank you, Jordy Bus Driver Harry, for your comments on last week's episode. This is why I wanted to... So, Rune VV. I don't quite understand the general consensus that AEW has too many belts when WWE has more, not even counting NXT. AEW now has 4 men's singles titles, 2 men's tag titles, 2 women's singles titles, and 1 women's tag titles, and for a total of 9 different titles. WWE Raw and SmackDown have 4 men's singles titles, 2 men's tag titles, 4 women's singles titles, 2 women's tag titles, on a total of 12 different titles. I think the numbers are slightly off there because... AEW
only have 1 women's tag titles.
And you have 1 women's tag titles, and AEW only has 1 men's tag titles.
They're the trios, I suppose. If you
I
count
suppose,
that as tag.
yeah, if you count that as tag, I guess, yeah. Sure, if they keep adding more, then it's silly, but as of now, it's a completely fine number. There were so many comments of Luke's really angry that AEW have got too many belts, but didn't mention WWE. And this is the classic internet nonsense
Discourse,
I like.
Well, what about?
I like the color blue. Oh, so you hate red, do you?
Yeah.
So I didn't mention this.
Yeah.
I wasn't talking about WWE introducing another belt. I was talking about AEW introducing another belt. If WWE introduced another belt on the same show in that same week, I'd talk about how they have too many belts. But that wasn't the topic of conversation we were having.
Yeah. I'm happy to talk about like the women's United States title, which doesn't seem to have any logical booking to it.
It's adding nothing to the show.
But the titles over on Raw, I'm going to say both the Intercontinental belts have played really big. I think what Becky's done with it over the year has been fantastic. I think Cena winning it has made it a big statement. I think Dom having it for the year did a fantastic job. It's about what you do with the titles, and I think what makes specifically the addition of the national championship so irritating is that you had a belt that did that. In fact, you still have a belt that does that. It's just also combined with another belt, which is separate and has its own lineage, but it can be defended separately or it can be defended together. And what happens if you...
Yeah, because it's now a unified championship, and yeah, exactly.
There's no logic to any of this. So, why are you doing this? And that's the issue. Far more than are there too many belts and things like that. If you've got enough programming and you've got enough wrestlers and you can make them feel like they're worth something, then do it.
But for the sake of clarity, I think WWE has too many belts as well.
That's fair.
I think they have too many belts. I think AEW have too many belts. I think the most belts in most wrestling companies are props.
Oh yeah,
And they actually,
effective props when they're used well.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I don't think they are.
I agree.
And our last one here comes in from Aspen Follinson. Nice to see Gabby's Dollhouse movie get some love. I had low expectations when I took my girls to see it, but I think it's genuinely the ideal version of what a Gabby's Dollhouse movie could be. If you made it a better movie, it would start becoming a worse Gabby's Dollhouse movie. And I completely agree with you. I thought it was a really good write-up of that film.
Have I fallen asleep? What are you talking about?
That was my recommendation on last week's
Gabby's
podcast.
Dollhouse.
Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie. You've seen Gabby's Dollhouse? I mean, you probably haven't.
Stop saying the words Gabby's Dollhouse, first of all.
A pinch on my left, pinch on my right. Grab Pendy's hand and hold on tight.
What? No, it's water. I'm not drunk.
It's
That
a
took too long.
it's a Netflix show for kids.
There's a lot of those.
And yeah,
Arguably as many Netflix shows as there are AEW titles.
like, I'd rather watch Gabby's Dollhouse than Coco
National
Melon.
match.
Honestly, Coco Melon can get in the sodding bin. But anyway, or actually Bing can get in the bin more than anything. You should be better, BBC. That's actually your bigger national scandal that's going on at the moment. It's constantly putting Bing on TV.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my recommendation of last week. It's a
Gabby's
kids show on
Dollhouse.
Netflix
Got it.
that,
Okay.
that I enjoy. Well, my kid enjoys at the very least. But anyway, do you have any recommendations for this week?
So I went to see Titanic in the West End, which is a little bit area specific. Absolutely exceptional. And in the meantime, and I'm sorry that this is musical theatre, but hello, I've been watching Smash on Amazon Prime. It was a show that came out in 2011-12.
Whoa!
Yeah. I watched it. Well, I watched it at the time.
Okay.
And it's about Steven Spielberg. It's a great concept. So basically, the concept was they're going to do the show about the making of a Broadway show, and at the end of the series, they'll make the Broadway show. Right, so they'll take this. They write Bombshell. It's a Marilyn Monroe musical, and then they would produce Bombshell on Broadway. So you go to, and then the next season would be about a new show, and then that would be produced.
Nice.
This show is abysmal, and I love it. Like, it's so good, but it's really bad at the same time. It's one of those shows. There's some brilliant behind the scenes stories about the production of this show that is absolutely insane. But when you just sit down, and as I have been doing, and I've been just wanted to go home and just put the telly on, to be honest with you. It's a fantastic way to spend 45 minutes. And it's one of those before times shows where it's like, you had to hustle to get this on air, and it's still like that. and there are too many episodes, and I love it. It's great.
Great. I have got. We're going to do two recommendations. I'm just going to do the one, I think, actually, only because I can't remember what the other one was. Oh, that was going to be the other one. The Lego have got a Game Boy set that.
Yes, they have. I saw you do it.
Oh man, it's so good. It's one of my favorite Lego sets I've ever built. It is satisfying because the buttons and the D-pad. I actually
Are they operational? Not like obviously working.
No,
but
yeah.
Can you press them?
No, but like Ash Millman sent me a message being like, "Oh my god, that's so cool! Like, does it work?" And I was like, "No, but check this out." And I sent her a video of the on-off switch, and it has got, I kid you not, the exact same sound that the original Game Boy had. Not through like electronic stuff, just the way that like just plastic clicks against each other. And she was like, "Oh my god, the ASMR of that was absolutely perfect."
Do you know what I mean? Also, I saw a reel of someone getting out. People are going back to the 90s and putting big tellies in their kitchen.
This is a Martha Stewart thing.
Yeah, yes. And I'm all about it.
Me too. I'm actually buying one from a local seller.
I was like, I might just go to a British Heart Foundation electrical shop and see if they've got one.
You would struggle. The Facebook Marketplace is actually the place to go.
Someone put in a Gilmore Girls, which is Warner Brothers, like home entertainment, and it had that. And I was like, ascending. Oh, wonderful stuff.
Yeah, no, we have talked about
God, things used to be good.
We've talked about it recently because I have it kind of sort of snapped me into focus. It was previously, but this weekend in particular really was. We went to stay, very fortunate. My in-laws have got a flat down in Hastings, like a second home. They're going to get rid of it because they can't afford to keep it on anymore, but we're going to use it until they've got it. But they don't have the internet down there. what they have got is a projector and like a DVD player.
Cute.
So we took down like a bunch of our DVDs and we sat there. But my kid was just, she's 4 and has grown up in a world where she can just watch anything she wants at any time. So it really was like a bit of a gear shift for her to realize, I can only watch a certain number of things and I've got to choose which one I want to watch. So I kind of want to like make sure that she doesn't get too like disillusioned with film, and like just the like I think if you have just got anything at any time, it does become just content.
And that's on devaluing art.
And I think it is devaluing art.
I've had it for too many years.
So we were talking about this before the flat anyway, because Martha Stewart did this thing about how like TVs in kitchens are coming back. The 90s kitchen is coming back, and I am going to buy a TV video combo, and there's someone on Facebook Marketplace now like area that's just selling like a load of VHSs. Yeah, because you can't get them in secondhand shops either because no one was buying them. Yeah, but they'll come back. But my actual recommendation for the week is Squid Game: The Challenge on Netflix.
Great. Okay.
I quite enjoyed the first season of it, and my wife and I started watching. We were going to watch one episode the other night. We ended up watching 3 episodes in a row and had another bottle of wine because we actually did get a little bit too into it. It's just like, I think that the way the show is structured and the way that they leave on cliffhangers is so compelling. Love Mark. Shout out Mark. Probably one of the best TV characters on anything in all of 2025. I've been really enjoying it. I say this with all the love in the world. There are too many Americans on it. And what I mean by that, there are too many Americans who are into sports.
Got it.
And they then bring that energy to the show, which I find quite cringy. So there's a little bit too much of that. Maybe it's why I like Mark. But yeah, I'd recommend it. I think it's pretty good.
There you go.
And that's going to do it for this show. Well, it's a me and Dan show, hour 35, longer than normal.
I follow your lead. I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, with Ollie's here, it's a tight one. It's a tight 1 hour.
Yeah.
But like, no. Well, actually, the first challenge on that Squid Game, this is why. First challenge is that you have to press a button after 456 seconds because there's 456 players.
Great.
So like the closest to 456 seconds gets it. And they're going around trying to find musicians. And I said to Kate, I was like, I wouldn't be looking for a musician. That's a good second option. I'd be looking for a comedian or a wrestler.
I'd be looking for Ollie Davis.
I was like, if you find a comedian or a wrestler and say like, give me a tight 7.
Yeah.
They will be able to like give you the closest possible.
That's like the Whitney Houston game on TikTok.
Oh, with yes.
Which, by the way, I nail every time.
Well, of course you do. I watched a Slipknot tribute band doing it on Instagram the other day. Anyway, so thank you as much for watching this podcast. We'll see you on Tuesday next week for the Raw review as we head towards Survivor Series, and it'll be Full Gear next weekend as well, which means we'll have a bonus podcast the following Monday. Please do subscribe wherever you find your find your podcast from. Thank you very much, Dan, for stepping in and filling in for the shows. Love doing a show with you.
Me too.
And we will see you next time. Jam that jam.